Welcome to the Protecting Your Nest podcast. When I attended the Symposium for Metabolic Health in August, I was privileged to share the many reasons why many of us struggle to achieve metabolic health. For those of you who are not able to attend, simply go to Low Carb USA's website to register for the virtual package, allowing you to see every speaker who shared the stage with me during the conference. What I have learned over the years is that many of us struggle. And we struggle because, we are simply living in a world where life is going to be a struggle, right? And that's going to be a barrier to help us achieve our goals as it relates to our health and all the things that we're trying to do in life. So today I thought it would be helpful to share another story of healing, a story that has allowed today's guest to not only transform physically, but also transform emotionally and spiritually as well. And when you do that, you overcome those struggles. Today's guest is Erika Bell. Erika, also known as Beautiful Girl Gone Keto, is the founder and creator of the Orlando Health and Wellness Summit. And she found keto in August of 2018. And with this lifestyle change, was able to lose 106 amazing pounds and put into remission the medical conditions she was suffering from. This lifestyle change was achieved not simply by focusing on dietary changes, but also on her mind, body, and soul. Today, you will learn from Erika the many facets that must be explored to have the life changes many of us are eager to experience. Erika also now offers a consultation service focused on coaching, providing a way for those on the keto path to stay on track as they work to achieve their health-related goals. And with that, Erika, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the Protecting Your Nest podcast.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so very much for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah, I am just as excited. I'm glad you found me. I'm glad I found you. And I really wish I had attended your last conference in Orlando, and which was shortly after the Metabolic Health Symposium. Many of the people who went there also went to the conference in Orlando, and we'll touch on that in a little bit. But I'm
Yeah.
just happy to just connect and just talk a little bit about your successes and the things that you're doing out there to make the world a better place, make the world a little healthier than it is today. So let's start our conversation talking a little bit about what's behind you, which is really a beautiful cosmetic company called Bronze Diamonds. And I want you to share a little bit about that and a little bit about yourself as my audience gets to know you a little bit better.
Very good. And thank you for that. I appreciate that. All too often, we talk so much about the health and wellness piece. We forget to talk about we're also business owners, right? So
Right, exactly.
I appreciate that. What you see behind me is my newest baby. I am mom to three, and this is my fourth. It is Bronze Diamonds. It's one of my proudest accomplishments. Um, about 2 years ago when the pandemic started and, there were some changes that I was making in my life. I was looking for other opportunities, in terms of my future. And I thought, what do I like? What do I enjoy? And I spent a lot of money in the department store on lip products. And I thought, you know what, why not create my own? So Bronze Diamonds is a cosmetic lip line owned and founded by me. And I'm super excited about it.
I love it. It's funny when you think about lips, right? Particularly in communities of color. I was laughing. I listen sometimes when I'm just not busy and have time. I'll watch Steve Harvey on his, Price is Right, or not Price is Right, but Family Feud, and sometimes people of color have larger lips, right? And there was a time when we weren't really proud of those lips, right? And then you find people starting to inject their lips to get larger lips. How ironic is that? So I just think that the ideal of being able to focus on our natural beauty and doing that by helping people to do that is really a wonderful thing. It's a gift, and we
It,
sometimes have to remind people. You have
It's
to
odd
remind
that you
people.
say that because one of the reasons why I definitely thought when I was younger and I was growing up in the society where, being a black woman with black features, big nose,
Yeah.
big lips was not celebrated. So I didn't celebrate myself or my looks. I was a little insecure about it. It wasn't until I came into my own as an adult and really fell in love with who I am as a person and a Black woman, and thought, yeah, these lips deserve to shine along with so many others. So, yes, embracing who you are, embracing your culture, all that. That's a part of my promotions when I talk about bronze diamonds and celebrating the beauty of who you are, and loving the skin you're in.
And that's very important. So before we go into your journey, how do people get connected with this great company?
Bronzediamonds.com.
That's
I am also on Instagram and Facebook under Bronze Diamonds. And the easiest way to support is bronzediamonds.com.
all right, perfect. So we've done our commercial. Now we can move on to some other talking points I definitely want to touch on. And the first is doing a little bit of understanding of what it's like to struggle. And I know keto was foundational in helping you overcome your struggle, but I always like to have guests who have struggled to talk a little bit about what life was like for you. In what ways did you struggle? What was it like to be in a body that was not metabolically healthy? Just talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so prior to finding keto, I really was just in a dark place, um, mentally more so, and then physically, um, very unhealthy. I had a a laundry list of health issues. I say I suffered from the three Ds, and that's divorce,
Mm,
depression, and the death of a loved one.
mm,
So that coupled with at the time, my inability to cope with said depression, I used food as I guess, a way to make me feel better. That was my support system. That was my vice. And it wasn't just food, it was carbs, it was
mhm,
sugar. Typical. I'm not the typical average Black woman where I'm like, oh my goodness, give me collard greens and macaroni and cheese and sweet potato pie. No, no, I was binging on all the packaged and processed foods I can get my hands on,
mm,
and I just was not coping with what I was experiencing correctly, and I didn't love myself. I was not putting myself first. I put my family first. I mentioned that I'm a mom of three. I put my boys first. Of course, I put my ex husband first. I put my job first. I put everything before me. And my health was deteriorating because of it. The depression really had me, for lack of better words, and I say this often, rocking in the corner. I really
mm.
I wasn't very mobile. I did what I had to do, but I was going through the motions. The person that I was before I ballooned almost to 400 pounds, it wasn't fair to my children either. I
Mhm.
really feel that my children did not get the same mom that my oldest son got. So, it was a combination of so many things, but the health issues is really what was crippling me, again, mentally and physically.
Mm. Now you mentioned death. That who had passed when?
I have a twin brother and I have an
Okay.
older sister as well. But my twin brother, who's my best friend, his daughter passed away.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, which is my niece. And
Hmm.
she was more like a daughter to me. I have three sons. So my nieces are my baby girls. And she passed away from diabetic complications. She was
Mm,
diagnosed with diabetes at um, 14.
mm,
So she succumbed to it. She passed away. She was in a diabetic coma. And
mm,
yeah, long story short, I lost one of the loves of my life. It's still
hmm,
kind of new. She passed away a while back, but 2017.
hmm.
But she was 22 years old, and you know, already going through that. I was already going through the separation with my ex-husband, and going, through my own battle. So to lose my baby girl, it kind of, it just took me over the edge. That's
Yeah.
what put me on. I was sitting on the couch thinking, I'm going to be on the next episode of my 600-pound life if I keep if I keep going like this. But yeah, I was in a deep dark place.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that personal story. And ironically, my last guest, Dr. Keith Runyon, he talks about type 1 diabetes, and he found a way because my wife suffers from that. And it's very difficult to manage type 1 diabetes, especially in a world where it's all managed by medicine, right? But you
Right.
can't get the control you really need just with medicine. You have to do it with lifestyle. So for any type 1 diabetics out there, please check out that episode. I even did a continuing medical education course for clinicians with Dr. Runyon, because we don't want to hear about any nieces or nephews or cousins or brothers or sisters, moms, dads who are passing because they hadn't figured out how to manage type 1 diabetes. And when you think about 14 to 22, that's not a lot of years with that condition to then succumb to it. So the good news is that there are ways to do it now. Dr. Runyon wrote a book about type 1 diabetes, so people should check that out. Maybe we'll have that in the show notes, but that'll be kind of our gift to her, and kind of celebrating her life by helping others who
Yes. Yes.
may have that diagnosis. So thank you for that. And I also you mentioned processed foods, and I'm always torn because when I listen to people like Dr. Eric Westman, he's a little bit more flexible. Then you listen to other people who are less flexible. And when I say more flexible, I mean whatever's going to keep you under 20 carbs, it works, right? And you can do that. But we do have to be careful with processed food because it does trigger you sometimes. And we do want to have a foundation that's built on whole foods. Now, if you have to consume those things periodically, but for some people it could be a slippery slope. So I do appreciate how that could have impacted you. So we have a sense of how you were living before you learned about keto. Then you magically discovered this magical dietary approach we feel is very helpful. So since starting that, what's changed in your life? What's been different?
Um, confidence. Confidence has been different. Uh, Energy. I say that I couldn't walk 5 minutes without sitting down or going to Target and being on the scooter. Hi, I'm the girl that's on the scooter in Target. Um, with her kids walking behind her. Yet that was me. I couldn't walk 5 minutes, and now I can walk 5 miles. And that is, you know, um, basically in finding the ketogenic lifestyle. It really saved my life. Keto saved my life in so many ways. I really didn't realize the addiction that I was suffering from. Hi, my name is Erika, and I'm a recovering carb addict. I'm a recovering emotional stressful eater, and I say recovering because I am far from recovered. Um, but yeah, stumbling across keto really, I tried several things prior to keto, and keto was the first thing, number one, that helped me see
Mhm.
that I could go without eating sugar. Like introducing protein and fat was the game changer.
I love protein and fat. This is recorded for those who are watching or listening the day before Labor Day. And yes, I have one of those steaks that I need to like take a picture of it. It looks like the Flintstones or something, right? It's just this big chunk of. My
It's a
wife
big
was
chunk
like,
of meat.
yeah, she said, put that on the grill because, I think so I'm going to make enough meat for the week. And I'm so happy you said, and when we say meat, guys, we're talking about anything that, flew, swam, crawled on the earth. If it was alive, it's meat to us. And
Right.
so people get confused about that. I think we're always talking about beef, but I'm going to tell you something. We're going to make enough meat, protein for the whole week, really. And I literally just need to eat that. Now, I'm still a ketovore. I tend to eat some vegetables sometimes, but man, protein and fat is essential to life. That's what you need. And once you discover that and you get rid of the fears of meat, oh my God, it's a game changer. And you're always full. I mean, you're not walking around here starving. So keto is a wonderful way to go. But I also, when I did research for you, I know you had done some paleo, right?
Yes.
So for you, paleo sounds pretty good. It's certainly better than the standard American diet. So what do you think kept paleo from being a solution? And just tell me a little bit of why you think keto was necessary versus paleo.
And that's odd because if I'm being honest, I don't know that I actually gave paleo the full try. You know what I
Okay.
mean? I feel like my first attempt in saying, okay, I'm done. I want to live. I want to live for my niece, Emani Shai Bell. I want to live for my family. I want to live for me. So I started looking into ways to actually change my relationship with food. More importantly, if I'm again, I keep this is my thing. If I'm being honest, I was at rock bottom and decided, you know what, let me go just have gastric bypass, right? So, in order for me to have had the surgery, the first thing that the doctor said to me was, you have to lose 30 pounds first. So, and telling me I had to lose 30 pounds first, I'm like, well, if I could lose 30 pounds, I wouldn't be here, sir. Um,
Right.
um, so he gave me a list of things that I should eat, and it was like oatmeal. What are those things? Anyway, the list of things that I was given with 1,200 calories was disgusting, and it didn't seem like it was something that I was going to be able to do. So, I found Whole30 first, and I was like, oh, I can do whole, vegetables, fruits, all that. I was like, I can do that. So I started with Whole30, and then just me looking and doing my own research, I'm like, okay, well, at least I can wean myself off of, the chips, the cookies, the candies, and all the stuff that I was doing with Whole30. Then a coworker was like, why don't you try paleo? So I was like, okay, did a little research on that, and I lost almost 20 pounds before starting keto. And somehow I wound up online and started reading. Went down the rabbit hole of keto and was like, these women are losing 50, 60, 70, 100, 150 pounds. Let me try this. So I had already started weaning myself off of sugar once I started the ketogenic lifestyle, August 1st of 2018. And wow, like I really say wow because I felt like I can eat all the foods that I enjoy. I like fish. I'm a seafood fanatic. I love eggs. I love bacon. I love avocado. Like the things that I could have, I could eat and be happy and satisfied and not feel deprived. So I don't want to give paleo or Whole30 a bad rap because I was seeing results. And, again, I was 376 pounds. Someone that's heavier like me, once you start, stop eating 5,000 calories a day and start eating 1,800 calories a day, it's going to make a difference. And it did. The weight started to come off, but more importantly, it was the energy. It was the not going home from work and sitting on the couch. It was like, I want to go for a walk. The energy, at one point I was taking Wellbutrin. I was taking all kinds of medicine for depression. I started feeling better mentally. And that makes me so emotional because I'm like, wow,
Right.
this food is contributing to the way I feel. So
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Keto is
Yes.
keto has there's I could talk all day about the benefits of what keto did for my life.
If I could bottle your emotion and the gift that you've gotten, from the energy and because you're right. I mean, people say if I come to work and I'm not energetic, people think something's really wrong. And it's not just because I'm this energetic guy. It's because I feel phenomenal most
Oh
of the
my,
time. And people don't understand, like, and that doesn't just affect you, it affects your coworkers. And I'm a leader, it affects the people I lead, it affects how I interact with my kids. And I'm just kind of level most of the time. So when people are kind of rattled, I can kind of just sit there and be calm. Because when you have up and down sugars, you have up and down emotions. So
oh
that's
my
why, see what I'm
goodness.
saying? And you don't
Yes,
get up and down emotions with the bacon, sausage, and eggs I had this morning. It's just
eating
not
keto.
it's
Right,
level. So for
right.
anybody, if that's one thing that you walk away from, understand that these dietary changes will change your life in that way. Now, I really appreciate it. See, and I call myself the metabolic health doc for a reason, because I do believe there are multiple ways to get to your goal. And I'm more of a ketovore, meaning I eat mostly meat and I eat some vegetables periodically. I will guarantee you, if you go from the standard American diet to paleo, you're gonna start to heal. And there's levels to this. Some people have to go all the way to carnivore because they're just not doing well with plants.
Right.
But just eating real food is huge. And just for those who are not as familiar with paleo, keto and paleo are both kind of, avoiding beans, avoiding grains like quinoa, legumes, of course, refined carbs, refined sugar. So both
Right.
keto and paleo are the same in that regard. But keto takes it a little further and say, you know what, these starchy vegetables may not be best for many patients who are trying to heal.
Right.
And they also avoid things like, high fructose corn syrup, where paleo maybe won't avoid those two things. And paleo also avoids dairy. So paleo to me is really a lifestyle. They're trying to get that Paleolithic, that's going back, couple of million, maybe 2 to 10 million years ago in that Paleolithic time. But they're trying to get that hunters and gatherer
Right.
approach. And what we've done is just kind of taken it a little further and saying there may be some stuff we could have gathered, like a potato, that may not be as beneficial. So I think, and then of course, real keto people, do macronutrients. Most of us don't. We just reduce the carbs. I'm not
Right.
counting anything. But, if you want to be scientific about it, you'll say, well, the fat has to be at a certain percentage. So, keto is different. But ultimately, I just love the way you framed it, which is paleo works for some people. So if that's your thing and you like paleo, absolutely stick with it as long as you're achieving your goals. And again, I measure things in my patient's blood, like I may measure a fasting insulin and things like that. And when I measure those things, if that's okay and your metabolic markers are okay, then you just do what you got to do and stick with what
Right.
you're doing. We just want to make sure people understand that keto is a great option and it's going to solve a lot of your health related problems. So again, another thing I heard you say, which was interesting, no longer you against you, but you for you, right? So I
Yes.
want you to talk a little bit. When I heard that, I just want my audience to hear you explain what that means to you.
Well, I realized throughout my journey and then talking with hundreds and hundreds of other women, since I started this back in 2018, so much has to do with the way we speak to ourselves. Me personally, I really feel that, you know, I just looked at my Instagram page. I was editing my profile, and it said, "My only competition is me." Or, and then I started thinking, but why am I competing against me? You know, um, Me against me. No, I realize that no one else is putting the food in my mouth. No one else is contributing to the behavior or what's going on in my body. It's just me. But I'm no longer against me. I'm for me.
Mm,
The language is you against you. Like it feels like it's always a battle. And in the beginning, if anybody remembers me early on, I started out as Black Girl Gone Keto, not Beautiful Girl Gone Keto. I was Black Girl Gone Keto,
mm,
and I talked about being a soldier. I felt like I was at war. I was, two keto soldiers. Like I was at war with myself, and at war with the food and the food industry and everything else. And it just really boils down to deciding to fall in love with the girl in the mirror and supporting that girl. There's no, I'm not against me, I'm for me.
mm,
There's so many other things that are against me. I'm not going to be
mm, mm.
against me. I'm going to be for me.
And I like that. I've heard many inspirational people speak about words matter and using negative words. It's almost like the secret and those positive thinking and
Yep,
affirmation.
I
But
agree.
it does matter. Like so speaking words of positivity is more effective than speaking words of negativity. So it does make sense that you would want to frame your vision that way, and that way it won't keep reminding you of the negativity. And I am forward thinking almost all the time whenever possible. So, for example, I'm literally, and I shared this stuff with my wife. I'm listening to a gentleman talk about plastic, and he shared that we already know plastic bottles are not ideal, and I'm still
Right.
transitioning away from that. I'm not there yet, but he also said, "Oh, by the way." Somebody brought up paper cups, paper plates. Well, he was like, "Well, it's the coating that makes it shiny is from plastic materials." So so you could interpret that a positive or a negative way. My interpretation is moving forward, I'm going to start to find ways to use those plates that are not paper
Right,
slash coated with plastic. Or you could say, oh my God, all these years I've been doing it the wrong way. I'm doomed, right? And I
right,
don't think that's the right answer. So I think,
exactly.
because you can't go backwards. So I just think framing things positively and being grateful that now I have this new information. Just like
Right,
with these podcasts, the work you're doing, the work I'm doing, we're sharing information. So I'm grateful that I'm able to do that. I'm grateful people are able to hear it because somebody's going to be the next testimony, like I, who don't have irritable bowel issues anymore. They're going to be your testimony saying I have mental clarity and energy and
right,
focus, and I'm able to start diamonds, bronze diamonds. You know what I mean? So we
right,
want to
right.
we want to inspire people so that they can live their best life. So I really appreciate that. Another thing that I heard you say and emphasize when you spoke was the power of choice and changing our relationship with ourselves and food. So let's speak a little bit about that as well.
Well, just along this journey, I've realized that, and growing up, now we could just talk about our culture as well. And we, most Americans, not even just Black folks, but most Americans, if there's a birthday, you celebrate with food. If you got a promotion at work, you celebrate with food. If someone passes away, you celebrate with food. It's just always been food. And I had to change. When I say change my relationship with food, I can celebrate without food.
Mm,
I can enjoy an event without, centering it around food. Um, I also used food to make me feel better.
mm-hmm,
So when I say change my relationship with food, I had to realize that if there's something that I'm going through, to sit in the emotion of it, to feel whatever that is that I'm feeling, and to not go to food. But also to learn to love. Like, I love vegetables. You say ketovore, like your ketovores. I didn't eat vegetables. I was not eating vegetables. And now when someone says go carnivore, I'm like, but what about my vegetables? Like, what about my broccoli and my cauliflower and my Brussels sprouts? What about that? Changing my relationship with food meant that I had to decide that it was not the food that was going to make me feel better. I needed to feel better for me, and it was not going to be the food. And when I say food, I'm not talking about food. I was eating junk. Again, I go back to
mm,
cookies and cakes and Oreos and packaged and processed foods. Sugar. Again, I'm a recovering carb addict. And when I say carbs, I'm not talking about the broccoli and the string
mm-hmm.
beans. I'm talking about ice cream, cookies, and cakes. I'm a junk food fanatic. Recovering junk food fanatic. So yeah, I think it's important that you recognize what your vice is and
Mm-hmm.
and work on that. And that's what I did.
I love it. You're definitely triggering uh, memories of my attendance at the Metabolic Health Symposium because I had a chance to. I didn't really talk to. I literally recorded a podcast with Dr. Robert Cyrus the previous Low Carb USA conference when they called it Low Carb, and we did an episode literally in the hotel room because he's a brilliant man, and I bring him up because he's a carb addiction doc. That's kind of how he labels himself. But I did get a chance to sit down with Dr. Joan Iflin, who literally wrote the textbook on processed food addiction, and so in my mind, in Dr. Cyrus's mind, and Dr. Joan Iflin's mind, carb addiction's real. It's a real thing, right?
It is real.
So it's a real thing. So talk a little bit about, you know, why do you think that's a real thing? What's been your experience, and what have you done anything to kind of mitigate that real issue? Some people have to go as far as Dr. In fact, in the show notes, I'll maybe have a link to Dr. Joan Iflin's, her ARC community that helps people with processed food addictions. But what's been your experience with this type of addictive issue with carbs and processed food?
Well, here's the thing. Prior to starting keto, I did not have control over it. I did not have control over it. I tried every Monday. I was on a new diet. Every single
Mm,
Monday, I went, spent all the money, did all I needed to do, prepared all my groceries, got my grocery list together. And then, Monday morning, I'm doing good. I'm at work. And then the vending machine is calling my name. by
Mm,
2 o'clock. So here I am because I don't know if it's the dopamine chase or whatever it is that it had a hold on me. My body was, and I can't say that, yeah, when people say, I'm hungry or, I got to eat, I just eat all day long. No, it was the chase. I personally think it was a dopamine chase. It made me feel better.
mhm,
Even if it made me feel better for 5 minutes, then guess what? A half hour later, I need to go back and get it again because I need that feeling again. It
mm,
just felt like I was chasing this feeling of that moment of feeling better because I was always feeling so down with the depression and with the health issues, high cholesterol, high blood pressure. I've suffered from PE, inflammation, being tested for MS and all these other things. I was always not feeling good.
mhm,
So the only thing that made me feel good was ice cream and cookies and Twix bars and chips, and that's the only thing that I thought would make me feel better. But guess what? It wasn't until I replaced that sugar with protein and fat where
mhm,
my it I'm 100%, I don't care what anybody say. It is real. When I replaced said sugar and processed foods with fat and protein, my brain said, "Girl, we're good.
mhm,
We're we can beat this." My brain
mhm.
said, "I don't want that. I don't need it. I'm full, I'm satiated, and I am just as what's the word I'm looking for? I felt good."
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it's a drug. It's like you feel that same kind of euphoria that you would feel from the so-called cake that will definitely give you a little bit of a dopamine, but you also feel that way when you have this kind of lifestyle. So it does give you, it's almost like when you exercise and you get that little dopamine. When you eat well, your brain is like, thank you, and I'm not congested with all of that starchy, sugary, the mitochondrial factory has to spew out all of these negative byproducts of processing glucose that do not occur when you process ketones. And so so you don't have all that debris, the debris you see in a factory. It's more like a solar panel. It's energy, but it's clean energy. It's clean fuel.
correct.
It keeps your brain nice and fresh. So it's really wonderful. And this is actually, I think this is a good point to mention. Again, we started the conversation saying many dietary approaches will help you get to your goal, but why are we leaning more in a keto direction? The reason why we lean that way is because it is my belief that if you have a processed food addiction, I'm not sure that the starches that paleo allows you to have is a good idea. I just don't think it's a good idea for people. Now, if you're able to have limited starches and you don't have a processed or carb addiction, have at it. But for many of my patients, they can't do that. And smothered potatoes with onions, and I mean, really, you're going to eat that and put that in front of you and not be tempted? I think for most people, the temptation is too great. So I think people who are watching or listening, please know yourself, test yourself, maybe even do the processed food addiction questionnaire. Like, so Joan, it's the same questions you would ask a person who has an addiction to alcohol, but you go through the 11 criteria. I made a video with Joan. Again, I'll try to share that in the show notes. And we walk through the criteria. And if you meet that criteria, you may struggle to overcome this without the type of support she offers. Now, some people may just need to listen to a podcast. Some
Right.
people may just need to be in a group or do do the type of work you're doing, be coached. That may be all they need, but some people need the real high level
Yes.
AAA meeting,
Yes. Yes.
serious business. You
I
know what I
I
mean?
can I can also just attest to the fact that, and that's one of the reasons why, I changed my name to Beautiful Girl Gone Keto, but then it became Beautiful Girls Gone Keto. So it became
Yes.
more of a support system, more of a way of getting together and talking with like-minded women that were having the same struggles and seeing the same phenomenal results and making the transition to the ketogenic lifestyle. You talked about potatoes and rice and bread. Listen, I thought I had gout. I didn't have gout, I had bread. When I tell you that, when I eliminated rice, all the white, the flour, the rice, the potatoes, my inflammation went away. Like I didn't have ankles. I literally thought I was going back and forth to my doctor. And of course, he was I love my doctor, but he was giving me all these different kinds of medicines. I was on all kinds of water pills, all kinds of. Once I stayed away from starch, and of course my favorite, grits. Lord Jesus, grits.
Mm,
Once I
mm,
gave, once I gave
mm,
up those items and just made the changes, the inflammation went away.
mm,
I need double knee replacement. I still need double knee replacement. One of the things, and one of the reasons why I wasn't as mobile is because I do not have cartilage in my knees, and of
mhm,
course that's from, of course, being overweight for so long, and then the underlying health issues. But the swelling, the inflammation in my knees, I am not joking. I could not walk without tiring, without the pain. And I have since walked up Stone Mountain, and I attest that to the
mm,
ketogenic lifestyle. So,
mm.
my goodness, yes.
Yes, you gave me my I don't know what my mom you know, so when we have days when we cheat and we're visiting my mom and she is feeding my kids who are now young adults grits. I don't know what she did to her grits, but they made it seem like God had touched them. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, she's making grits." And
Right,
so what I tell my patients is I know that's part of the culture and I would say many cultures, but um, I tell them it's processed food. Like, so, because people are like, what's wrong with grits? Well, it's processed. It's they take corn and they, refine it and refine it, take all the nutrients out of it, and it's just processed food. So part of our journey is to define what's processed food. Well,
right,
grits would be one for sure, and that doesn't mean you never eat grits ever. It just means that you need to understand we're not trying to eat processed food. So
correct,
that's kind of
correct.
something important. And the other thing that comes to mind is when I think about your journey with your knees and what's cool about the future that will occur after you have your knee surgery, you will have a non-inflamed body for those new knee parts to be in, which means
Correct,
that the length of time that they will last will be greater. The healing is going to be better. The pain you have afterwards is going to be better. So everything's just going to be better. So I really appreciate that you're on this journey, and I'm okay with having a procedure because I do integrate allopathic or conventional medicine into my now holistic brain,
right.
and I'll do whatever necessary. I told you before we recorded, I got LASIK recently, so I'm
Right.
okay with technology, but I also want to do things that will help my body heal properly. And other than keto, any other things that you had to do to overcome hunger, because one of the biggest battles with diets or lifestyle, I hate to use that word, dietary patterns, is hunger. And when I was a vegetarian, I was always hungry. Keto carnivore, never hungry. So how anything you've had to do other than keto to overcome the hunger issue?
And I realized in living the ketogenic lifestyle that I wasn't hungry. With living the ketogenic lifestyle, I started intermittent fasting. I was following macronutrients. I was not hungry. Prior to living the ketogenic lifestyle, I ate all day long, and
Hmm.
I thought it was hunger.
Right.
With getting the right amounts of protein and fat, you eat until you're no longer hungry, and then I, again, what the body does, and keto isn't just, people fail to realize that we are changing our metabolic state. Like, you are changing your body from burning carbs for fuel to burning fat for fuel. You become a fat burning machine, and I am a walking, talking example of a girl that was a size 28 that made it all the way down to a 14 from simply changing, number one, my relationship with food, and then incorporating the fat and the protein. So, at this point, when I eat, it's not because I'm hungry. I don't want to paint a picture of perfection here, because I'm far from perfection.
Right.
I mean, I started out as a really big girl, and now I'm just a big girl. But I can't say that if I'm hungry, I eat. Now, let me be clear too. If I get hungry, if it's true hunger, I eat. If I realize that I'm bored, if I'm stressed, if I'm emotional, somebody done got on my nerves, then I know the difference. I can tell the difference between those things and actually being hungry. I do practice intermittent fasting, and that works wonders as well. That's not for everyone. I don't do long extended fasts. I'm not doing 36, 72. Well, no, I'm standard 16, 8, 18, 6, and yeah, I if I get hungry, it's because I've either missed my window or maybe I didn't eat enough at that last meal. But I think people need to recognize the difference between boredom, stress, emotional eating, and hunger.
Yeah, and you want to ask yourself those questions when you think you're hungry. I mean, we always tell people to drink water when they think they're hungry,
Right,
see how you're doing. But until you become metabolically healthy, until you become fat adaptive, where you're accustomed to burning ketones for fuel, you may still be hungry. So it's not unusual at all. And of course, because of all the things that happen in your life, you may have a day when you're normally not hungry and you're hungry. Well, what happened the previous day that may have changed you in such a way that you are hungry. What's really cool and why there's so much unfounded fear about these dietary patterns is that a lot of the research, like for carnivore, for example, they've only done really one large observational study. They haven't really done randomized controlled trials, which is what the Sean Bakers of the world hopefully will be doing in the very near future. I bring it up to say, people say, well, aren't you going to be vitamin C deficient if you're carnivore, as an example? Well, your metabolic uh, metabolism changes in such a way that you become more efficient absorbing the vitamin C that's in like meats that are there. So you become so efficient that you may not need to worry about that fruit that you think you need to eat. So, and until we do research or until we see people are becoming deficient when they aren't, which they're not,
right,
on these dietary patterns, we have to understand that research typically compares paleo to the standard American diet, keto to the standard American diet. And they may do
right,
some where they compare a low fat versus a low carb. But the point of it is, until we start really comparing, carnivore and then looking at what happens, then we really can't really then say a carnivore needs fiber if we haven't done the study to suggest they do. Lions don't
right,
need fiber. So it's just so
right.
people get confused because the studies are not really there to justify. What we do know is that people are doing really well. And so I just want to just put that out there so people can just think about these in a different way. Some of my patients do come to me frustrated and saying, I just need to have surgery. Not a lot anymore because I'm having so much success in my clinic, but you still get that. So if anybody's considering gastric bypass, your thoughts on just how would you approach it? I know you end up not doing it, but what would you say to a person who's contemplating gastric bypass?
That's a great question because for years now, I've been, my youngest son now will be 17 in September.
Hmm.
Um, I probably stayed in between a size since college, maybe between like a junior's 14 to a woman's 16, up until, almost 17 years ago. And then after my son and what I was going through in my marriage, and I ballooned from that junior 16 to all the way up to a woman's size 28, 26, 28. And for years, I was talking to my doctor about ways to lose weight, and I'd lost weight, gained weight, lost weight, gained weight, and it got to a point where I had pulmonary embolism in 2008. I was diagnosed with PE. Almost lost my life. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks, scared to death, thinking, "Oh my God, it's going to travel to my brain." And that happened in 2008. We didn't know why, all this kind of genetic testing, all different kinds of things. And I was on blood thinners for 2 years, 2008 to, came off the blood thinners. And then it happened again, but blood clots in my lungs in 2011. Same thing, didn't know what was going on, and then I had to be on blood thinners for the rest of my life. So that was 2008 and 2011. But all through that time frame, I wanted to have gastric bypass, and my doctors was like, "You need to lose weight naturally. Like, we need to figure out how to do this naturally." Um, they didn't want me to have any elective surgeries, and at the time, they were considering that elective for me. But I really, really wanted to have it, and I just thought, well, because I'm on these blood thinners, I can't, and so on and so forth. it got to a point where I was so riddled with different health issues, the severe depression. And I talked to my doctor. I cried on his, on his shoulder. And he finally said, okay, let's do the gastric bypass. And I thought, thank you, Jesus. Like, thank you. Somebody's finally letting me have the surgery. So I was all for doing it, even though I knew I was going to be risking my life. I knew how scary it was going to be. I know with my health issues. And, I really felt that I was at my rock bottom, and gastric was my only way that I was going to save myself from having to have this double knee replacement at 47 years old. Um, Bottom line is, if that is what you want to do, by all means, make sure that you explore every single opportunity in front of you before you do. I started on this journey to lose this 30 pounds. And I made a joke earlier telling my doctor, if I could lose 30 pounds, I wouldn't ask for surgery. Um, but once I started doing it naturally, I realized I didn't have to have gastric.
Mm-hmm.
I've been told for so long, oh, you're too old. Your metabolism is screwed. You're not gonna lose over 100 pounds naturally. You can only do it with surgery. That's what I was told.
Mm-hmm.
And I quickly found out that, baby girl, you don't have to have surgery to lose weight, So my advice, I'm sorry for the long drawn out explanation, but you know, gastric for me was definitely on the table. But I want whoever decides to go that route to try everything you can first physically and give keto a shot, because I didn't just lose that 30 pounds. I kept losing. It took me 10 months to lose over 100 pounds. And that was just on straight whole foods. Whole foods. People, the word keto has a lot of negative connotations for some strange reason. I have no idea. But if you use the word whole food in place of keto, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
So I
I
would
agree.
say do your research, do everything possible first, and try the ketogenic lifestyle before you have the gastric bypass surgery.
Well, I can tell you as a clinician in a large health system, um, who refers people to nephrologists and endocrinologists, cardiologists, especially. Um, the main reason I think that people were afraid of keto before we came up with, the science that supports it is the LDL issue. So the LDL cholesterol, if that is truly the most important way to determine a person's risk for heart disease, then they're going to be afraid of keto, because there are, even though I just did a post where a guy's LDL went from like 98 to, which wasn't bad in the first place, down to 44 on keto.
Wow.
A lot of people go up a little bit or stay about the same, but you always see the triglycerides plummet, the HDL, good cholesterol, go up, and the LDL will either remain the same, go up a little bit, or go down. But because it can go up, I think people in the cardiovascular world were afraid of keto. And then the other issue, but of course, that's been the concern about LDL being an issue is not an issue, because it's got to be, is it the small or large particles? And the large particles don't cause harm. The small particles, I actually reduced on a keto diet, which can cause harm. And the triglyceride to HDL ratio, which needs to be less than 2, that's a better predictor of heart disease. A better predictor is the apolipoprotein B to A ratio compared to LDL. So basically with keto, most, if not all, the metabolic markers except for LDL get better. And it's our argument that that's enough to say, well, if everything's getting better, why are we worried, right? And so there's still arguments around that topic, but I think that's the main thing. So I just think that as we navigate this storm, this craziness in life about what's important, what's not important, we need to think about these things. Now let's go back to the gastric bypass issue. Most of my patients are not on weight loss medicines because they are satiated with keto. So
Right.
I mean, if I have 5 people on, and I'm an obesity doctor, think about that. So I'm an obesity doctor. I learned all of these medicines, and I may have 5 or 6 people on medicine,
Right.
because keto will satiate you and you'll feel
Right.
full. The surgery issue, I have colleagues who I work with who are bariatric surgeons, and for the right person at the right time, it's absolutely an option we should consider. But we also won't have to worry about, bleeding and, infection and blood clots, and you already had a problem with that. So that would put you at higher risk if you had
Right.
surgery, even though you were kind of cleared to do it. Anesthesia risk, all kinds of issues with leaks when you're trying to sew the stomach back together, whether it's a sleeve or gastric bypass, all kinds of problems can result.
Right.
So I think at the end of the day, if you meet the criteria, and mostly if your body mass index is over, 40, if it's over 35, and you have comorbidities, they call it, like blood pressure, sleep apnea, diabetes, fatty liver, you would qualify, or anybody that's really struggled to have weight loss. But at the end of the day, if you have tried and really have tried to do this dietary thing, and recognizing that there's a lot of mind stuff going on, right? So you
Oh,
have to be supported. So just saying, do this and telling the patient to walk away probably won't work. But if they're being supported and coached with people like yourself, Erika, and they're then not being successful, or they're with Dr. Joan Iflin and they're still not being successful, then maybe that's the person should have surgery. But
right.
it's just something you need to be careful about. So I'm happy that you were able to find keto and were able to do it that way. I'm just so impressed with your energy. I'm so impressed with, the fact you're able to start this business. I'm so impressed with the fact that you say beautiful girl who has gone keto, right? And I just think that that's so important that we celebrate our beauty. It sounds like that's really important to you. So when you're
That,
speaking to the women out there, and I would say men too, when you're speaking to people, why is that so important that they hear that message?
you know, um, I can also say before keto, I was not this emotional. I feel like I was I had a depressed emotion, but this euphoric. These are tears of joy. But
Hmm.
it's just a reminder as to. I think the emotion is a reminder to where I was, and one of the reasons why I do reach back so much is because there's so many women that I talk to even today that is currently the woman that I was, rocking in the corner, depressed, hopeless, just it, to be able to reach anyone that feels ugly physically, internally. Like when you're depressed, you could be Holly Berry. It doesn't matter. You don't feel beautiful. You have to really get to a point where you stand in the mirror. This is an exercise that I give all of my ladies. Get in the mirror. One of my girlfriend, her name is Keto Yardi. She'll say, dance naked in the mirror. The bottom line
Mm.
is fall in love with you where you are. I think it's important for people to know that they're beautiful on the inside and out. Beautiful Girl Gone Keto is not about my internal beauty. Again, for years and years and years and years, I didn't feel beautiful. I didn't grow up in a family. My parents loved me to death. I had both my parents. I grew up with both my parents. I didn't hear, "Girl, you're beautiful." I wasn't that. That's not the way I was raised. I didn't hear that. It wasn't until I decided to fall in love with myself and realize, yes, you are beautiful, and it's not a physical beauty. It's not a. It's just feeling beautiful. Feeling worthy. It's important for you to love you. A lot of times we expect people, or we're feeling away because you don't think I'm beautiful. Like, I think I'm beautiful.
Hmm.
You have to think you're beautiful before anyone else will. So the beautiful girl gone keto part is more about feeling beauty, the beauty within.
Yeah, and everything about what you represent, the comments you just made remind me of my protecting your nest acronym, my nest and rope. And I want you to kind of think about that for a moment. And when you think about nutrition, exercise, less stress, more sleep, recovering from trauma, your thoughts, and the rope, our relationships, avoiding things that can harm us, like organisms and pollutants, and of course, our emotions and our life experiences. When you think about that acronym, what part of those letters were impactful as you've kind of healed and become the person you are today?
I love the acronym, by the way, and I've learned through all of this. Again, I'm only I say only, I'm 4 years in now, and living the ketogenic lifestyle. I have not lived a perfected ketogenic lifestyle by any means. My weight has gone up and down. Um, One of the things that I would take away from that acronym is mindset, um, the thinking part. I have learned that this is something I talk about, going back to positive self talk. If you think you can, you will. You can. If you believe you can, you can. Whatever you think you can achieve, you can. I realized that my weight, the number on the scale, was not my issue. It was the weight of everything else that I was carrying. The weight was the after effect, or the side effect to how I was feeling, and my relationship with food, and all the other things that were going on internally. The weight was just an after effect to that. So when I realized that it's more about, for me, I always say it's 70% about mindset, 30% about the food, because we're grown. We all know what we should and shouldn't eat. We know what's healthy for us and what's not. I really think that nutrition is important, but mindset first. Because I can have all the food in front of me I want. I can make all the best decisions. I can have ketogenic food here, and I can have the standard American diet here. And depending on where my mind is where I'm going to go. So mindset for me, and the thought process, the thinking part of that, is more important for me.
That makes a lot of sense. And I literally have always told people in the past, it's your food that matters the most. And if that's true, and it may be for some people, thoughts are number two. You could argue thoughts are number one, because if you get your thoughts right, you can achieve everything that nest and rope acronym suggests we need to focus on. So I'm right there with you. Mindset is also important in terms of how we perceive ourselves. So when I'm in clinic, literally while I was at the Symposium for Metabolic Health, I kind of cracked a little joke. And the joke talked about my wife. I wish I saw her expression when I was saying it. I'm gonna tell you what I said. It was kind of funny to me. Patient came in, and I was talking to a couple, and the young lady was on her journey to lose, reverse her diabetes and her blood pressure with this lifestyle. And the guy said, "I'm down with that, doc. I want my wife to be healthy, but I need her to have that junk in her trunk." That's what he said.
I know that's right. I know that's right. He said, "Listen, I don't want that booty to go away.
That's right.
Those
And
hips, I need those. I need to be
that
able to hold on to them hips."
man, and I was like, dude, I was like high fiving him, saying, "I understand. We're gonna work on some squats or something. We're gonna make it
Right.
work." But when you think about that, and in certain communities, that's something that matters, right? So, what's your thoughts on the importance of maintaining the curves, right, as we take this journey towards metabolic health?
It's hilarious that you even brought that up, because anyone that knows me, even at my largest, even being at 400 pounds, I still walked in with my dun 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 dun. Ow, dun 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 dun. The hips, the waist, yeah. So even as I was losing weight, what's funny is I did want to hold on to my curves. I wanted my hips. I wanted my rear end. I wanted those things. I was more concerned about loose skin. You know,
Mm,
I absolutely, positively wanted to hold on to my curves, and by the grace of God, I did. Um, I think it's important to add exercise. You People say, do you have to exercise on keto? No, you don't have to. But if you do want to maintain, your curves, add exercise. You can't spot exercise per se, for weight loss, but you can absolutely tone. And yes, I'm an advocate of the curve, and I was very, very. This is also going to sound horrible, but I didn't want to lose too much weight.
mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm still heavy. I'm in between now at 16 and 18, but I didn't want to be at 28 anymore. And that wasn't about being a size 28. It was about where I was physically and mentally. I was not healthy. There are some
Mm-hmm.
beautiful women that are still to this day a size 28, and they're beautiful and they're healthy.
Exactly.
But I just really wanted to hold on to my curves as well. And I was successful in that. But I do recommend to anyone that has that concern to exercise, add
That's
exercise.
right.
I do have a lot of skin left for on my arms, and my arms started out being really big anyway. But I would say to focus more on exercise, and
Hmm.
it should work out well.
Yep, and you're right. Exercise may not be the best weight loss tool per se, but it's certainly a great way to be metabolically healthy. And it's if you do the right exercises, you'll be able to maintain the shape that you want.
You mentioned those
And
squats
the
are important.
squats, got to do it. And I follow. I don't know if you ever one of the guys at the conference. I've mentioned him multiple times, Dr. Ben Bokikio. And I'll maybe share that with you and with the audience. But he does a 15 minutes twice a week exercise, and one of them is a very slow squat. Right now, I want to pause. 15 minutes twice a week is all you have to do. So that's really important for a busy person like yourself. You got your business going. You're trying to do your, conferences. You're trying to do your social media, and that's all you because you want the muscle to heal, recover, grow. So if you
Right.
exercise too much, there's no recovery, there's no growth. So I just think that the other point you make, which is critical, is you don't have to be skinny to be metabolically healthy. You just don't. So everybody is going to have a different goal. Once those numbers we measure are okay, your blood pressure, your blood sugar, maybe your waist is a little smaller, your triglycerides, your HDL, and the other things we measure, like a fasting insulin, when those things are normal, I'm done worrying about that weight.
I went
I
from anywhere from 9 to 12 different medications a day.
mm,
A day. I was taking, and even including the anxiety medicine, the depression medicine, the cholesterol medicine, the blood pressure medicine, the blood thinners, and I could go on. Um, I was deficient in vitamin D, iron, you name it. It. I went from taking 12 different medications. I am down to 3.
mm,
But that alone, and I could tell you again, physically, am I exactly where I want to be right now physically with my weight? No, absolutely not. But when I tell you I am the happiest I've been since I was 25 years old, I have energy and drive and purpose. And I don't know that I would have found that without finding the ketogenic lifestyle.
well, again, we're going to individualize how we're going to achieve this. But again, I think it's really important people understand metabolic health is the goal, not what's on the scale.
Correct.
Now, having said that, it's okay to have goals with the scale as well. One of the last questions is, I always tell people, you know, average people do extraordinary things. I grew up in the hood. I've been blessed to, get a decent education and to, lead in my health system and obviously do the work we're doing here today. But it's extraordinary for a person that's only been doing this for 4 years to have their own freaking conference on keto, right? That just seems extraordinary to me. So just talk a little bit about what was inside of you that led you to not only doing this lifestyle transformation for yourself, but to then spread the message to others via your keto conference in Orlando. So talk a little bit about was that person already there? Did you just become that person when you
So
adopted
in
this
my
lifestyle?
younger, that's a great question. The person was kind of buried underneath 20 years of just being unhappy. I did used to. I'm from Newark, New Jersey. I'm also from the hood. Um,
Yeah.
but we grew up, moved to Piscataway, New Jersey, Essex, Middlesex County, and I used to promote comedy shows. I used to do ski trips. I used to do all kinds of things. Crab Fest we used to have. So I do have that promoter in me. It wasn't until I started Black Girl Gone Keto on Instagram. I went online and shouted to the world, "Hey guys, I'm 400 pounds and I'm about to change my life." And I met some phenomenal women. And the first health and wellness get together is what it was. It was a meetup. It
Mm,
started with 24 women So the first event was 24 women, and it has grown every year to what it is now. And I know that it's going to continue to grow. One of the reasons why I changed it from, just a girls' trip weekend is because the more I got involved in the community, I did not see many women that looked like
Mm,
me shouting, we can do this, shouting, this will work, shouting, you don't have to be depressed, you don't have to be unhappy, you don't have to be unhealthy and overweight, you don't like it. And I didn't see stages with folks that looked like me.
mm-hmm,
And even 4 years in, it's getting better. It's definitely getting better. Um, but I may not be able to come and sit at your table, but I can create my own table. And at my table, there will be diversity. And at
mm,
my table, there will be, and this is my invitation to you right now, sir.
mm. Put me on blast.
I have honestly been following you for some time, and it's important to me to have representation.
Mm,
I want to make sure that I continue. Again, most people who see this will know that I started out as Black Girl Gone Keto. I made the transition to Beautiful Girl Gone Keto because I'm a Black woman first, obviously,
mm, mm,
but I wanted to reach all women, all people, and I think it was important to make the transition to Beautiful Girl Gone Keto. Um, but I'm still reaching back. I do not change my goal, which is to reach and touch as many Black women as possible, and to grow the awareness of what we can do naturally with whole
mm,
foods.
mm.
And I just need people like yourself to come out and represent for us, as I know you will. So this is my invitation to you, sir. I would love to have you at the 2023 Keto Orlando Summit.
Excellent. Well, when we have we go to Disney. Is it Land there in
We're
Orlando? Is it
Disney
World?
World. We're Disney
Disney World.
World,
Okay.
right? I
Whatever.
think California is Disneyland.
Okay, cool. So we go there, and often in the past, kids are older now, but would be happy to do that because, in fact, the last time we went to Disney, my mom was with us because we do family trips, and that's one Black woman who I want to keep around as long as possible. I got a
Yes,
wife
sir.
who just happens to be African American, and although we're trying to reach every person on the planet,
Every
we want to make sure that communities that are struggling or who are impacted even more. And truth be told, uh, carbs impact communities of color a little different. That's real. It's not like I've seen some of the research, and yes, how we metabolize carbohydrates is not as effectively, so it tends to affect us more when it comes to oxidative stress. This the term that people learned with COVID. We tend to be impacted differently, so we have to make sure communities of color hear this message. But we definitely want everybody because we all have family that we love and
correct,
care about, and we want. So the good news is everybody's going to hear the message, but
correct.
sometimes the people who won't listen to people who don't look like them need to see people that look like them to get them engaged. and
I
and
agree
and I wish the
100%.
world wasn't like that, but that's just what it is. So thank you. And yes, since you put me on blast, I plan to
Yes,
to
sir.
be
Yes, sir.
there, absolutely. So now, having said that, let's wrap up with my last question. You touched on it a little bit, but when it comes to protecting your nest, where will be your focus over the next 12 months? Where do you plan to put the most focus?
That's a great question. And I know I talk quite a bit about mindset because for me, it was making the right decision. It was, choosing correctly, going back to choice and making the right choices when it comes to your health. For quite some time, I've been so focused on mindset and mentioning how amazing I feel, and I also mentioned the up and down in my weight. I am going to be focusing on nutrition, and the reason why I'm going to be focusing on nutrition is because I think that I've gotten the mindset part down. Now I need to get back to what had me very successful in the first 10 months of my journey, and that was nutrition. So I will be focusing on what goes in my body for the next 12 months. And I will be living the ketogenic lifestyle. I mentioned earlier that I lost my 22-year-old niece, Emani Shai Bell, to diabetic complications. You mentioned this earlier. We should be able to share with our community that there are ways that you can live with um, type 1 and type 2 diabetes if you make the right decisions. So nutrition will be my focus for the next 12 months.
Well, I'm going to dedicate this episode to Emani Shai Bell.
Yes, Emani Shai Bell.
And we're going to dedicate this episode to her and what she gave us while she was here and what she continues to give us as she inspires us to help anybody who is struggling to know that there is a new way. There's a new way to overcome type 1 diabetes and, of course, to achieve metabolic health. So, and that's why I really appreciate you and the work you're doing. I want you to definitely share how people can connect with you for coaching, remind people how they can connect so they can get their lips glowing a little bit, looking good,
Luscious
looking
lips.
luscious lips. That's right. And any other means to connect, go ahead and share that.
Absolutely. So my primary contact is on Instagram. The easiest way to find me is on Instagram at Beautiful Girl Gone Keto. But I also have the website, which is Beautiful Girl Gone Keto. I am promoting Bronze Diamonds actively right now. I am really thrilled about just looking forward to this doing very well. It's an amazing product. You can find more information about Bronze Diamonds at bronzediamonds.com. You can also shoot me a follow on Instagram at bronzediamonds.com as well. And yeah, I'm going to be starting my YouTube channel. I was doing something called keto tripping a while back. And when the pandemic started, that stopped my keto tripping, where I was going and meeting people individually and sharing their stories. So I'm going to be starting that back up in the very near future. So you guys look out for Beautiful Girl Gone Keto on YouTube as well.
Well, I'm putting you on blast right now. If you don't have me on your channel, we're gonna be fighting, okay?
You will be on, sir. You will be
All
on.
right. So when you're ready, just let me know. And again, I appreciate you. Thank you for what you're doing, and I hope your voice reaches more people. And I'm definitely gonna have my wife to take a look at the Bronze Diamonds
Yes,
website and see if I can make her even cuter than she is today.
absolutely. I'm here for it.
Amen. That's right. So thanks again, and appreciate you. Okay.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to seeing you in the near future, you and your missus.
Oh, no doubt about it. And for those who are watching, listening, this concludes another episode of the Protecting Your Nest podcast, an episode where we were all inspired to maybe try keto, maybe inspired to start our own business, and maybe even, to consider coaching, because coaching is going to help so many people achieve their goals. So I'm really looking forward to being at the conference the next time they have it next year in Orlando. And maybe I'll see Mickey Mouse while I'm there. And I really encourage you guys to look into the conference as well. And I just think we've learned so much today about struggle, and struggle is one of those things that we can learn from. And I don't really worry about struggle. I frame it differently. I look at struggle as a life lesson and a way to help us achieve our greatness, that greatness that we're all destined to achieve. So I really hope you all enjoyed today's episode, and I encourage you to share it with anyone who's looking to be inspired. So as we close, I only ask that you continue to be safe, be well, and continue to protect your nest.